Okay, we continue with our lecture. This should be like lecture number 4 now. Everyone, we're beginning class. And we just discussed which are the major stakeholders. We continue with now the internal environment. And the internal environment is the environment inside the business, of the business and of the business employees. And that particular environment is called organizational culture. So let's see what we have. Organizational culture is shared values. In other words, these are values that all employees have. Like, oh, we are a great university here. We're always about student satisfaction. We're about a good quality education. Whatever the shared values, principles and tradition. Traditions are associated with, at the beginning of the year, there's a welcome party for all incoming students. Everybody, please, come on, class begin, all right? So, traditions will be also when there is graduation, you always, have a nice little party. Traditions for iPhone is to throw or Apple is to throw a big party whenever a new iPhone model is coming, okay? So different businesses have different traditions, and they follow these traditions. They have different principles. A principle will be, we always treat the customer first, or a basic business principle is that the customer is always right, okay? And values and ways of doing things. Ways of doing things means that workers inside, they do things their own way. They got their own method of doing things. They got their own computer system to do things. An example as part of the organizational culture here is the LMS system which you all use. So because you all use the LMS system, and because actually all other professors use it, me as a newcomer, I have to use the LMS system too. So usually new employees get to learn the organizational culture quickly, because you can operate only within the organizational culture. And this particular cultural feature is technological feature. So technology, come on guys, the two of you, okay? The two of you, Warren, next time, okay? So, new workers, new employees have to learn the culture as quickly as possible, have to learn the technology, have to learn the procedures according to which the business works and operates. But culture is about values and principles and traditions. Culture is a perception, okay? It is a perception. Culture is also about as I spoke a little while ago, about the image. About the image. For example, oh, he's a very good professor, or no, he's not a good professor, or oh, he's giving good examples, good exams, or not giving good exams, okay? So it is how, in our case, professors perceive the university, how we work, how we operate, and so on. Organizational culture is not concerned whether members like it or not. So here, the university has a culture, and it doesn't care if I like it or if I don't like it, okay? this is how things are done, okay? You do the things on the LMS system. Classes begin at 1:30, okay, and finish at 3:15 or 3:20, okay? There are certain things which are the way they are, and if I don't like it, I should change or live with it or find another job, right? And that's part of organizational culture. New people have hard times changing the culture. Well, sometimes, well, oftentimes, especially when business gets very, very, very successful, the culture deteriorates. The culture goes bad. The culture gets corrupted. And what they usually need is a new executive, a new vice president to change the culture. And a lot of executives or business managers say, oh, I can change anything in a business. But the hardest thing to change is the culture, how people think, behave, operate, okay? It is very difficult to change the culture. And that's why managers should be extremely careful to keep the culture good. We call it in chapter 1, to keep the culture efficient, to keep it effective, to keep it productive, okay? To keep it good for business. Because once it goes bad, it's extremely difficult to change. Example of cultures which just never change is in governments. And that's what usually happens. We get new elections, you got a new prime minister, you got a new president. He's trying to change the culture of the government, but the government doesn't change. You're not going to change bureaucracy, you're not going to change police, you're not going to change the school system, you're not going to change the healthcare system, okay? So culture is extremely difficult to change, okay? And employees describe the culture, organizational culture, in similar terms. So no matter how different they are, no matter from what country they come from, no matter what their religion is, they usually describe the culture in a similar way. Well, that's what the culture is. What different people think or perceive is similar in the institution, okay? Institution same as organization, same as business. All right, and they got here a strong corporate culture. Well, first of all, we need to define, I think it's coming up here, no it's not. What is a strong culture? Strong culture means that it is shared by everybody. It is shared and extremely difficult to change. And here they got some example. You're going to see it in the textbook. For the strong corporate culture means success. And here for China, whatever, there's been a slogan to transform, into a corporate head. It's just general big business talk. But the idea is very simple. If a business will be successful, it will need a strong culture. In other words, as new employees come, they get to work in a very, very similar ways. Okay? And they got here how can culture be assessed? Well, it's a little complicated, but we'll try. We begin at the very beginning. You're beginning to zoom a little bit in here. So we begin at organizational culture, and then these are the factors over here, okay? And now let's begin with this one, outcome orientation, and maybe you zoom in to get also this piece too, so get these two pieces together. Very important is a strong culture is focused on results. Does it get results? Does it bring in customers? Does it bring in revenues? Does it sell? Okay? Is the customer satisfied? So, strong cultures are very oriented for outcomes, same as results. They want to see what really happens. It's not simply about whether we do things right or whether we do them wrong. It's about the result. An example of an outcome is for the university. It's not exactly if we teach you well or not well. What's the final outcome? It's whether you get good paying jobs quickly. Okay, that's if somehow the university students get good jobs easily and quickly, this means results are good. Okay, whether economics was good or not good, whether management course was good or not good, whether accounting was good or not good. Okay, the final result is you get a good job for good money, and that's what is important. Next piece is over here, which is people orientation. To what extent the business focuses on people, whether it's its own people as workers or customers as people. So usually strong cultures of management decisions into account the people. So is the business manager focused on the person? What kind of problem they have? They may be sick, but still gotta come to do the work. They may have some other problem, okay? So focus on people also determines the culture. In Japan, the economy in business is characterized by a very, very, very strong focus on people. Same thing happens in Sweden, Norway, in other Nordic countries. So usually successful economies and successful businesses focus on people. They make sure that their employees are okay. If the employees are okay, the work will get done. Okay. If the employees are not happy, business isn't going to be doing very well. All right, next piece is team orientation. And here, to what degree, or degree to which work is organized around teams as opposed to individuals. So, to what extent the institution is focused on teams? Well, here in universities, we don't have too very many teams. Each professor working for his own, meaning not for myself, but I do the work alone. I teach this course alone. So here, for this course, no teamwork. I teach alone. For accounting, I teach alone again. Okay? But for other businesses, you can't just work alone. Designing an iPad, you can't really work alone. You need a huge team, and that team will communicate with a lot of users and a lot of customers. Team orientation is needed when you design a car. Okay? So sometimes teams are very important, other times teams are not very important. We move next to aggressiveness. The degree to which employees are aggressive and competitive. Some businesses encourage employees to be very aggressive, and they call this aggressive culture. It is expected if you're in the financial industry, if you're trading stocks, bonds, if you're in the financial industry working with customers, you're expected to be aggressive. On the other hand, here in academia, they don't expect us to be aggressive. For example, aggressive fighting about getting a particular course. No, we don't do that. No. You want management? Okay, you take the management course. You want marketing? Okay, you take the marketing course. Oh, you want to give me finance? Okay, I take the finance course. Okay? So, aggressiveness is sometimes important, but other times it is not important. And how aggressive employees are determines business culture. Next one is stability. The degree to which organizational decisions and actions emphasize the current environment, the status quo. Okay? So sometimes businesses are very stable by nature. Other times they are extremely unstable. We already discussed before, okay? And for example, universities are very, very, very stable businesses, okay? Restaurant, which serves a local town, is usually a stable business. But restaurant, which usually serves tourists, is not very stable. You may get too many tourists at one point, you don't get enough at another point. You may get Swedish tourists, you may get British tourists, you may get Chinese tourists, okay? Different tourists from different countries, they have different expectations, different ways to consume. I mean, they're different customers. And finally, innovation and risk taking. An example of innovation in a business is, let's say, this particular camera, the one that you're seeing over here, the one with which we record. You don't see many other professors using the camera, but I am introducing an innovation. And I used to record the lectures, I post them on YouTube, and I provide you a link on your local LMS system. So that's an example of innovation, okay? And sometimes businesses encourage innovation. Sometimes businesses say, no, we don't want innovation. We are in good business, we're making good profit, customers are happy, and we don't want to change anything, okay? They just say, if we got a good business, why change it and risk making it bad, okay? Or risk failing. So sometimes businesses will say, sure, yeah, you want to try, why not? Let's experiment, let's see, okay? Let's see if you guys like the camera. Let's see if you're going to watch those. And if you like it, next semester we'll do it again. And if you don't like it, we close the camera and no more, okay? Essentially, it is an innovation that serves you. And if you find it good, helpful, valuable, maybe other professors will also introduce it. And if you don't like it, then you just tell me, hey, we don't like it and we don't use it, and that's the end of it, okay? So, the way to assess culture, once again, is focus on results, focus on people, on the team, on aggressiveness, stability, risk-taking. Oh, and I missed attention to detail. Is detail important or not very important? Do they focus on the big picture or small picture? Attention to detail is for you to know one little thing about this particular course. Attention to the big picture is you can actually write in good English, you can express your thought, you can think critically, you can analyze, you understand what's really important, okay? Let's see what else we have. Okay, how do employees learn about the culture? Well, they learn it by stories. So, the first thing when I come here as a new employee, exactly 4 weeks ago, okay, was that I hear from other professors, which were here for 1, 2, 3 years, stories about the university, stories about students, about whatever is happening. So by hearing the stories, I get to understand the culture, all right? I get to understand the organizational culture and how people behave, how other professors behave, how management behave, in your case, how customers, you students are customers. So I need to learn as quickly as possible the culture and fit into the culture. Usually takes between 2 to 6 months for someone to learn an organizational culture. So you can't expect me to be within 1 week exactly like everybody else, but maybe within 2 months I will be similar. I will acquire similar. I'll provide similar exams and grades and all the other things step by step. The other thing is rituals. Ritual is doing a particular thing in a particular way. So say, oh, we do this way. Oh, we do this that way. Okay. Certain material symbols. Okay. Material symbols and language. Well, here part of the organizational culture is actually the uniform. You all look very similar. With similar uniforms, all having white shirts, and whatever the pants are, you all look the same. So the uniform here is part of your culture, part of the university culture. When I was in the Arab world, there's no uniform required, okay, of students. On the other hand, when I was there was a specific requirement about professors. Every professor's got to have a tie, okay, for some reason. This kind of tie, right? So, and language. So, where is the organizational culture derived from? Where does it come from? What is its origin? And the origin usually comes from the founder, from the one who created the business. He created the business because he had different skills. That's the key. Different skills, different requirements, different way of doing things, okay? And he served the customers in a different way. For example, Apple computer back in the old days, or now the modern day iPhone. The modern day iPhone, which we call the smartphone, was different, okay? It was the vision of Apple's founder, Steve Jobs, okay? So, the idea is that a lot of times the founder, the one who creates the business, he creates the business because he sees something different about the product or something different about the customer. And he creates this culture with his first 2, 3, 10, 20 employees, and as they bring in new people, they get into the same type of culture where you can get a big corporation of 10,000 people and all having a very similar culture originating from 20, 30, or 100 years ago, okay? So it's the founder's biases and the founder's assumptions about what the organization and its values should be. So Steve Jobs thinks that we should be very, very innovative, okay? Apple always has a different product. But Apple and Steve Jobs is very, very focused on design. It's got to be nice, it's got to be slick, it's got to be easy to use, okay? It's got to be what we call now user-friendly. So he's got very specific requirements, okay? And let's see. And the organizational culture comes from what the first employees learn from their own experiences. So the very first employees, let's say creating a car, the designers learn the particular things, they made particular mistakes. They say, oh no, we don't do this, or oh no, we do that, or whatever that might be the case. An example will be that some professors give 1 midterm, other professors give 2 midterms, okay? Some professors give easy midterms, other professors give hard midterms, okay? So what is the organization's response to this? The organization's response is there will be 1 midterm and only 1 midterm. You cannot have 2 midterms, okay? And then the second organization's response is there must be a committee that will check whether the midterm is good beforehand and approve it, okay? So this is a lesson learned from the past, okay? And they incorporate it as part of the business, as part of the procedures, and as part of the institutional culture, okay? So institutional culture depends heavily on what was learned in the past, okay? And you say, oh, no, we don't do 6 quizzes. 6 quizzes are too many, for example. Or we don't do 2 midterms. Or another important lesson, we don't have 50% for the final. That's too much, right? I mean, you like 20 or 30%, right? Maybe 35%. All right, well, that's part of organizational culture. So one of the first things they tell me is, well, try to keep the weight of the final exam between 30% and 40%, okay? And they say, why? Because our experience shows that it's optimal, okay? So they tell me, don't make it 50%, and I don't make it 50%, okay? Another example of experience is the one which I explained to you at the syllabus with the grades, where if it's between 80 and 100, I give A, okay? Between 70 and 80, B, okay? What I did was copy, paste from my colleague, okay? It's not because I'm lazy, it's not because I'm stupid, or it's not because I don't know. It's because I'm just acquiring part of the local culture, okay? You as customers are familiar with that particular table, you see it in many other courses, and I just use the same one to make it easy on you, okay? So that's how culture gets learned. I simply ask them here, how many midterms, what's the grades, what is this, what is that, what is the weighting, and all the other things, okay? And that's what I'm trying to do, to learn the culture as fast or as quickly as possible and work with it. Okay, so let's see what we have. How does organizational culture affect managers? Okay, well, on what they do and how they behave. That's very simple. That's how I do my course. These are my grades. It essentially changes my own behavior to be similar to all the others, okay? So that it's not fundamentally different, okay? Except for the camera, right? That's an innovation, all right? And through its effect on what managers do as they plan, organize, lead, and control. So when I'm creating this particular course, I'm thinking, and I'm asking the other professors, well, how many chapters do you usually teach? And they tell me, well, 8, maybe 9, okay, maybe 10, okay. Not 15, right? 15, yes? Not really, maybe 10. And I said, okay, I'm going to plan for 10 chapters. So the internal culture already affects how I plan my work. It already affects how I organize my quizzes, my exams, my midterms, my final, okay? How I organize my whole course. So I already look at other syllabi, at other professors, and I try to do the similar things. So in a sense, it affects my own work, okay? My manager tells me we do this, we do this, we do this, and we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this, okay? And I try to stick with what's usually done here, okay? And this is some other stuff. I'm going to skip. Let's see. Well, I've been already explaining how corporate culture or business culture or organizational culture affects what employees do. I've been explaining also that one too. How I behave and teach here depends on what others do about the culture. Okay, strong culture reflects employee acceptance of and commitment to the organization. It is very, very important that employees are committed to the organization. They care about the organization. A good business will have good, committed employees. Okay? That's why many businesses have trouble because employees come, they work 3 months, they work 6 months, and they go. And that's not good for business. Business is good when you have many long-term employees who stay, who work, who keep the culture, keep the image, and possibly keep the customers too. Okay? Because new employees are not familiar with the customer. They don't know. They're not familiar with the environment. Okay? Coming to a new country, to a new university, to a new religion, to a new culture is not easy for us, for any employee. Okay? We need some adjustment. Okay? And the stronger the culture, the more it affects the employee. So, in a very strong culture, things are very, for example, the culture when I was teaching in Macau was relatively weak. They say, oh, you want to do this? Okay. You want to give them a project? Okay. You don't want to give them a project? Okay. You want to give them a final exam? That's fine. You want to give it open exam? Okay. You want to give it strong, opposed exam? Okay. But basically they tell us, you do the way you decide. The way I was working at the American University in Bulgaria was like that. They say, you choose your course, you choose the exams, you choose the date, you choose what to do, and the culture was nothing is predetermined in advance. And essentially what students complain is, well, we have 10 different professors and they are totally different. Each professor has his own little system, which is totally different from everybody else. But they don't understand that sometimes this is an advantage to the student, because they get to see a professor from Russia who works in one way, a professor from Brazil who works completely different, a professor from China who works in a different way, a Japanese professor. We also had a Korean professor. We also had an Egyptian professor, all right? You understand? So the students get to see more diversity, get to learn more when the culture is weak, when the professors are very different, okay? But when the culture is strong, it makes it easy for the student, okay? You see the same exams on the same date, right? The same week, and all the other things are the same. So there is a trade-off. We can't say strong culture is good and weak culture is bad, or the opposite, okay? There are benefits to strong culture and weaknesses, and there are benefits to weak culture and businesses. And you should be aware that culture is extremely difficult to change. And 2.4, I'm pretty much ready to finish. Let's see what we have here. Culture affects managers. Yeah, it affects them. That's very clear. Managerial. Okay, let's finish this piece. It's very important. Let's see what else we got. All right, everyone, let's try and finish. We got a few more minutes. This is a fairly important piece. How, okay, managerial decisions are affected by culture, specifically the planning. Culture affects planning, and culture affects the degree of risk. Yeah, can you take a big risk? Can you take a small risk, okay? Culture is very important in the planning process to the level of risk. Also, let's see what we got. Culture is very important in how the plan is developed. Whether it's developed by the team or it's developed by individuals. Let me provide a simple example. When I was teaching at the American University in Bulgaria, the professors, which we are with the employees, we get together and we distribute which courses, who takes which courses, and we choose our courses. And we negotiate the courses between ourselves. We say, okay, you want to take financial management? Okay, I'll take money and banking, okay? And when professors agree on the courses, everything's okay. Now, in the Middle East, and possibly over here in the Middle East, they say the department chair says, you take this in this course, you take this in this course, okay? Whether you like it or don't like it. And usually, most professors don't like it. And they're not happy with the course they take. Why? Well, sometimes a professor has a specialty. Somebody loves money and banking, okay? They've done it for 20 years. They are world-renowned experts, okay? They have spent their lives in this particular field. And then the course is given to somebody else, okay? And he's got to teach something completely different. Well, he's not really happy about it, okay? And when professors are not happy, they tell one time, they tell a second time, the third time they leave. They find another job, okay? So it turns out that when it is done in a teamwork with all the employees and the work is distributed and planned well, everyone is happy with the way they do it, and you don't have a dissatisfaction. When it is done centrally and from the top, usually people are not very happy. Like, you're going to do the week number 1, you're going to do the night shift, you're going to do the day shift, you're going to do the morning shift, you're going to do the afternoon shift, and they're not happy because they say, well, but my husband is working a second shift, and I'm working a first shift, and if we're working different shifts, we don't get to meet and see each other, you see? Well, if you're asking, hey, which shift do you want to do? Say, well, my husband's second shift, I'd like to take the second shift, okay? They say, okay, you take the second shift. You see, sometimes people have different thinking and they want to participate in the planning process, okay? And if they don't participate, usually they are not happy with it. And finally, planning is also affected by the degree of environmental scanning. So, what is environmental scanning? Environmental scanning is management looking at the external environment for changes, looking at the global economy for changes, looking at the political side for changes, looking at the economic, at the social. So usually strong cultures, or usually you want to get as many people involved as possible in here. Now, what about organization in organizing the business? How much autonomy should be given to each employee? All right? How much they should choose? How much flexibility they should have? How much, that's very important. Strong culture usually gives little autonomy. Weak culture gives a lot of autonomy. Autonomy means the ability of the worker to choose what they do and how they do it, okay? So that's important. So strong cultures are oppressive. You got to do this way. You got to do this that way. You got to do this particular way, okay? And for example, sometimes the response may be, but I've done this for 12 years and I know that this works better, okay? And they say, yeah, but we don't care about that. We do this way, okay? So there are advantages and there are disadvantages. And organization is determined by the culture. And the degree to which department managers interact with each other, in other words, how organization is done, is also depends on the culture. All right, we got a few more minutes. Leading, the degree to which managers are concerned with employee job satisfaction. All right, job satisfaction is, in some businesses, very important. In other businesses, not so important, okay? For a little restaurant of 4 people, and if the local waitress is not happy, you replace, you put a new waitress. No big deal, okay? But for the business, if the cook is not happy, and it's a special Japanese restaurant. All right, guys, quiet, please. 2 or 3 more minutes, 2 minutes. If the cook is not happy, and the cook is about a specialty, Japanese cooking, which others are, it's very difficult to find, then you gotta keep the cook happy. Okay? So leading is very important about job satisfaction. And what leadership style is important. And finally, about control. Some employees don't like to be controlled too much. Some employees do their job really well, okay, don't have to be controlled. Other employees are too lazy. Other employees, you gotta tell them what to do and you gotta check if they do it. So it's very important to understand the culture of which employees work. And I think that's pretty much it. Okay, yeah, that's it. All right, we're finished. All right, good.